Tyrone Carr. In this video, we're going to talk about a critical illness rider. Now, we use a critical illness rider, much like we do an accident rider, one of the other videos that we've created. But we use a lot of these to integrate with people that have group health insurance coverage and individual policy, and then also people that have a Medicare Advantage. These create tremendous value. So when we're talking about insurance policies, people have a group policy, individual or Medicare Advantage, and they have these large deductibles, large max out of pockets. There's a lot of, they're unsettled in terms of what could happen or what they could pay out of pocket. And especially if you're someone who doesn't have the financial means, it's what do I do in the event that I have a diagnosis? I have a diagnosed cancer, I have a stroke, a heart attack, or maybe something a little bit more terminal, like ALS or dementia. And now they're like, gosh, I know I'm going to have to come up with something like a $6,000 max out of pocket, or it could be even greater. So, but in this video, we're going to talk about kind of really using it in terms of a Medicare Advantage. So as a person who's either has made that transition to a Medicare Advantage, or maybe you're someone who's in the process of aging in Medicare and you're trying to consider whether or not a Medigap policy versus a Medicare Advantage makes more sense. Some of the feedback we get from people that are concerned or trepidation is, I've got this max out of pocket, I got to pay for all these co-pays with inside of a Medicare Advantage. So one of the things that we do is try to layer riders, an accident policy, a critical illness, and a hospital indemnity to kind of mitigate those risks with inside of a Medicare Advantage. So the way that a max out of pocket works with inside of a Medicare Advantage is every single time that you enter into a hospital inpatient, outpatient clinic, emergency room, urgent care, it could be you're visiting a specialist, and certainly there's a variety of specialists out there, you're exposed to that max out of pocket. But each of the service that's rendered, so if you had an MRI, CAT scan, EKG, those services rendered have a specific copay. And every time you pay a copay, that copay gets applied towards your max out of pocket. So in this illustration, we're using $6,000. So if you had an MRI, CAT scan, EKG, and it was $270, that $270 would get applied towards the $6,000, and then you'd owe less that sum of money, the further testing or doctoring you did throughout the course of that year. But a critical illness rider, the way that it's structured, the way that we structure is, we can make this rider equal or greater than your max out of pocket. So if you're concerned about this, if you were ever diagnosed or had diagnosis later in life, cancer, or if you have a stroke or heart attack, this would help mitigate or protect you, so that way you're not having to come up with all that money out of your pocket. So what you do is you pay a monthly fee for this. So I'm going to use in this illustration a person who's turning 65. So I can make a critical illness rider and make equal to your max out of pocket, and you're roughly right around $32 per month. Now, there's a number of carriers that we work with, so I'm just using one example. So you could pay $32 a month to mitigate this entire risk in the event that you had that diagnosis, cancer, or maybe you had a stroke, maybe you had a heart attack, something completely unexpected. So that way you're not forking out $6,000 out of your pocket all at once. You're using this rider, which is essentially another insurance policy. We're layering your Medicare Advantage to offset this exposure, to help give you that peace of mind. So a lot of people can afford to pay $32 on a monthly basis to offset this versus trying to come up with $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 out of their own pocket all at once. Again, we're just using another insurance policy to layer with inside that Medicare Advantage. So if you were diagnosed, and what would happen is when you receive that diagnosis, we provide it to the insurance carrier who that policy is written through. And so long as that diagnosis is a critical or terminal illness, what they'll do is they will reimburse you for up to all the services rendered up to that point and up to the dollar amount in which we make that policy. So what we'll do is, if your max out of pocket is $6,000, we'll make it $6,000 to mitigate that risk. So that way moving forward, it gives you that peace of mind, similar to like what a Medigap policy is, but without the higher expense associated with it. The other feature that's nice about this rider is, one, there's no rate increases. So every year as you celebrate a birthday and as you age, the premium doesn't go up. It's permanent, it's fixed. Unlike a Medigap policy, you have rate increases year after year, regardless of whether or not you use that policy. Again, it's just a more creative way of layering your Medicare Advantage with other policies to help mitigate that risk at a more affordable cost. Thank you for watching the video. Talk to you soon.